Welcome to the Soldier Athlete Farmer podcast. My name is Jeff Strong, and this is a podcast for men who want to grow strong in body, mind, and spirit. In today's episode, we're talking about the one tactical move that could change how you handle pressure, and it's a move that every winning team uses. Last week, our 16-year-old daughter competed for Team BC at the Canada Cup volleyball tournament in Ontario. And as I watched the games, with the metaphors of soldier, athlete, farmer in mind, one of the observations that stuck out to me was just how critical timeouts were to the teams. Teams would usually employ at least one timeout a set, but the first to use a timeout were often the teams that needed to regroup, take a breather, quickly reassess their strategy. And so you'd see a coach call a timeout when the other team went on a scoring run or when their own players seemed rattled or started to get unfocused. It was especially important to use a timeout when negative momentum had taken over and the set was getting away from the team. We need these kinds of timeouts in our daily lives as men as well. Moments that we use to regroup and refocus, especially when curveballs get thrown our way and our own game plan gets interrupted by just factors we didn't see coming. I've never been great at this personally. My tendency when I face resistance or a negative momentum is really just to double down on grit and try to overcome through sheer willpower. But I am learning that taking a brief timeout is often much more effective than trying to power through whatever's happening. And I understand why, for a lot of men, taking these kinds of timeouts doesn't come naturally. Sometimes we see it as an expression of giving up or a kind of character flaw or weakness. But using a timeout isn't a character issue. It's actually a tactical issue, right? No team in the Canada Cup tournament that I was watching would have won a game without thoughtfully and strategically using timeouts. Because timeouts are essential for athletes to keep their head in the game and pivot to better strategies when they need to. And that's how we need to think of them as men navigating our own daily challenges. In Scripture, God gives us a weekly timeout, right? That's the Sabbath. 6 days you will work, and on the seventh you will rest. But we actually need daily ones as well. This is something that Jesus modeled perfectly. Scripture tells us that he regularly withdrew to pray and rest, especially when pressure was mounting. In Mark 6:31, when his disciples returned from ministry exhausted and overwhelmed by the crowds and ministry demands, Jesus said to them, "Hey, come away with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." Luke 5:16 tells us there's a regular pattern in Jesus' life that he often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. This pattern reflects God's heart for us. Psalm 23, verses 2 and 3, celebrates a God who makes me lie down in green pastures. He refreshes my soul. Notice that word, that God makes me lie down in green pastures. A great coach doesn't ask the players when to take a timeout, right? They make the players take a timeout because they realize that those athletes need refreshment of either body, mind, or spirit, or all three. Jesus was living into a practice that Jewish believers had used for centuries before him, but he was also setting a foundation for the church to come, showing that these intentional timeouts with God are critical for our spiritual health and effectiveness. A daily rhythm of prayer has been a consistent thread in both Jewish and spiritual practices across history. Ancient Jews practiced fixed hour prayer, most notably morning, afternoon, and evening. And by the third and fourth centuries, church fathers like Tertullian or Cyprian or Origen mentioned praying 7 times a day, and that 7 came out of Psalm 119, 164, that says, 7 times a day I praise you. Like a timeout in the middle of a tough game, These fixed times of prayer help to interrupt the momentum of distraction, discouragement, stress. They give you a chance to pause, to catch your breath, to refocus on what matters, and to get back into the game with clarity and purpose. Now, for a lot of men, the idea of 7 formalized spiritual timeouts every day feels pretty overwhelming. Popular alternative is the daily office, which consists of just 3 times of structured prayers, something in the morning, something in the afternoon or around noon, and something in the evening. But this practice of taking spiritual timeouts doesn't have to be that structured at all. We never know what today is going to bring. And so we should be ready to take as many tactical timeouts as we need to catch our breath, to regroup, to re-engage our responsibilities with a view to honor God and to bless others. So what does that look like? I would say a lot of the timeouts that I use when my day begins to go sideways are pretty simple things. Splashing cold water on my face, doing a quick workout, taking a short walk, listening to a particular worship song. Maybe I'll take a quick shower, grab a healthy snack or some fruit, hydrate myself, and just while I'm doing that, just stepping outside, getting a little bit of sun on my face. And all of these things are paired with a short prayer for what I need in that moment. God, I need a fresh perspective. God, I need real help with this. God, I'm just feeling so anxious and fired up about this. I need your peace. God, I need power to overcome what feels like a day that's getting away from me. And, or God, I need you to lift my spirits. I just feel slow and sluggish and things feel really dark today. When we don't use daily timeouts, we quickly get overwhelmed. And that pressure can build in our souls. And then we fall prey to temptations like pornography or drinking or any destructive habits that offer an escape from the daily demands of life. But these destructive release valves don't actually help us stabilize and regroup any more than offering an athlete a beer during a timeout would help them re-engage the rest of the game skillfully. And so instead of seeing these kinds of pauses and timeouts as evidence that we're not focused enough or strong enough to power through, I think we should shift our perspective and our mindset. Because timeouts can be places of unbelievable grace, supernatural power that help us adapt to the new realities and challenges in front of us and can help us come back into the day stronger. Right? They're not a sign of weakness, and they should not be a last resort. They're a tactical play that you should use throughout your day to regroup and realign to God and his purposes. So here's my challenge for you. Start building timeouts into your day before you need them. Don't wait until you're overwhelmed or the negative momentum is taken over to an extent that it feels like the day is kind of over, that there's an inevitability that sets in and you just sort of acquiesce to where the day takes you. Be proactive. Create a list of 3 to 5 really simple, healthy timeouts that you can use when life throws you a curveball. Because the men who learn to take strategic breaks are the ones who finish strong.